Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Tactical Baby Gear Podcast. I'm so excited to be back. I miss you guys. This is the first podcast, not since quarantine, but since the first one we did during quarantine. We haven't done a podcast in probably a month, at least. Anyways, so we have our first guest since then, and this is Brady from K9 Gunner Tactical. Brady, how's it going? Thanks for being here. It's a crazy series of events having random. You here. So let me tell you what happened. I wake up Sunday, maybe it was Monday morning. I've lost track of days. What's today? Today's Tuesday?
Tuesday.
So was it just yesterday? I think I saw you posted. He's on a cross, not a cross country. He's coming from north to south. He's moving.
And we're going to get into that.
We'll get into that in a minute. But he's on his way to Florida with his camper and the family and the dogs and the whole 9 yards. And he makes a post. They're posted up at this campground, and he tags the location. And I'm like, Hilton Head RV and Harbor. Like, I know that. That's where I keep my boat. I'm like, that's 3 minutes from the office.
And granted, we've been going back and forth for
a couple months,
now, more than in the past.
For sure.
Because we followed you guys for a while on social media, just being in the tactical realm of products. And all places we could have stopped. I mean, we were driving down 95 South, and I just was like, we need to stop at an RV park and get these kids out of the car. We've been in the car. How many hours were we going on?
Was that like day one, or this is your first stop here?
It was day two. We stopped at a truck stop at 4 a.m. for 3 hours.
Oh, geez. So you've been on the road for probably 15 hours or so.
Getting close by probably 10, 12.
Okay.
So of all RV parks, we picked the one that's in your backyard.
Yeah,
literally in your backyard of all places. And in the past couple of months, we've been going back and forth about linking up, possibly, gear stuff. We love your gear. We support the gear because we just had baby Nash, and we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
The new baby boy, the blessing to our family. So it's crazy how things just work out.
Yeah. And especially in a time like right now with all the Corona stuff, and everything seems to be falling apart. And for like one cool little thing to kind of come together was pretty rad. And then, I put the boat in the water last night, and then I'm like walking back to my truck, and he's like, comes up behind me. He's like, honk. He's like, dude. I'm like, oh.
I recognize that guy.
There he is.
Who is that?
And then you were so gracious enough to bring us some pizza after my wife was like, we had a rough day yesterday.
When you said we're going to get food here, and I thought, the food there's closed. It is closed. I know it's closed. And I was like, I'm just going to order a pizza for them anyways.
Yeah. Well, that was funny because I was like, I walked back to my wife, and she's like, the restaurant's closed on Mondays. And I was like, I got this. And then I'm going to text you, and you're like, hey, I went ahead and got you a large pizza. And I was like, I love you.
Solid.
Save the day.
You can't get any better than getting food to hungry children.
Right. Exactly.
That are in a pool.
Exactly.
That can't have food nearby quickly.
Exactly. So anyways, everything's worked out so well. And so then I was like, hey, let's do a podcast. So now you're here, and here we are. That brings us to this moment now. I want you to tell everybody listening more about yourself. Okay. You're a pretty interesting guy. You got a lot of different things going on, and some really interesting stuff, I think. So you had a military career.
Yep.
When did that start?
2004. I left about a month after I graduated high school. So joined the Marine Corps, went off to boot camp. I always knew I wanted to be a Marine. My grandfather was a Marine for 32 years. And I always said, when I get older, I'm going to be a Marine. I want that Marine life. Everything you grew up hearing from your grandfather, I wanted to be a Marine, like every other boy that wants to be some type of army running around your local backyard with like little, plastic guns and stuff. So I went forward, and I did it, and joined, went off to boot camp 2004, and then got stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Got stationed with 2nd Light Armor Reconnaissance Battalion. Did 2 tours with them, but I wanted something more. I didn't want the military life. For the most part, a lot of military guys, once they get in, they want to get out. They're like, all right, they're pumping us out too much. I just want to. I
did my 4 years. I'm done.
Yeah,
the
salty mentality of a lot of military guys. Then I got out and went to college. I had a former head of the FBI task force guy in Philadelphia tell me, "You need to go to college. Don't settle. use your GI Bill and go to college. And it's actually one of the best decisions I ever made was go to college, because it opened up a lot of doors for me, not necessarily with my degree, but showing me to, just like the military, putting something in front of yourself, accomplishing it, small goals, and proving to yourself, I can do this no matter what it is.
Right.
So I went to college, graduated, and that brought me to my career that kind of puts me in your space. I was an executive protection agent for a high net worth family in Philadelphia that had 2 kids. So a lot of you are like, "What is that? What is executive protection agent?"
You had mentioned that. I posted a clip of Gary Vee or something, and I said, "Hey, I wonder what you guys think about this clip now after quarantine of being a stay-at-home parent or stay-at-home dad." Some parents are kind of getting a taste of that for the first time, of being like full-time stay-at-home parent because of the situation.
And I think the parent that doesn't stay at home is getting a taste of how hard it is to stay home. And a lot of people have that mentality that, I'm going to work and I'm doing I'm making
doing the hard
bread.
work.
I'm doing the hard work. Where essentially, like, my mom raised 5 kids, and it was a task in itself. And I got a taste of that when I got on the job with these 2 little kids. Pretty much your job was to get to the location in the morning, the house, secure the home, relieve the security teams that were in play, pick up the wife and kids, and take them to school, take her to their errands for the day.
So you drove them around?
Yep, from sun up to sundown.
Was this like a political family, or
no?
They were just high.
They had some issues
people
with some mob stuff. So it got so bad we ended up working with the FBI a little bit with these taking down these mobster threats.
Right.
But anyway, I did that for 4 years.
Oh wow!
So
you were part of the family, like they relied and trusted you. You were.
I was the guy.
Now, was the husband around a lot?
No, he was a hard worker. Hustled and grind. Typical one of those guys that his brain just goes, never shuts off with work. And he was really good at what he did. But going to work every day with those kids, it was exhausting. I'd come home at the end of the day like,
well, yeah, because you're like Uncle Brady kind of to them. You're like you know what I mean? And I would imagine that's kind of.
It's so funny because the kids when I first started were younger. One was going on 2, and the other one was going on 4. So like they were at that age where they understood but didn't understand. Like the 4-year-old, like, who is this guy? But they had money, so they always had help around. Whether it was people
Maids
helping around the house or stuff like that. So it wasn't new to have someone new in the house. But it just became like this cool guy that, took us places and, dropped us off places, made sure we walked into school. And, I was just like their buddy at first. And then it just became more and more, they became more and more like, family. Honestly, I felt like she was like my sister and I was helping her with her kids on a daily basis. And a lot of people looked at it like, man, your job's so easy. You go to work and just, follow around. No,
because on top of you're trying to maintain a cool, calm, collected, composure to the family and to the kids. At the same time, on super high alert, making sure that everything's cool, nothing's out of place, nothing out of the ordinary. Because I'm sure while you're driving, you're checking mirrors, like because I don't know what the level of threats that you guys dealt with.
For a while, they were very high level of threat where we had counter surveillance following us to make sure that there wasn't issues, and it was tough because you had to blend in. Like
right,
we had to look like
keeping
not
that
like
level
a
of
couple,
normalcy,
but like you can't look like you're an FBI, like Secret
bodyguard,
Service, got your earpiece in. No, you had to blend in, right?
Yeah.
And for a while, she didn't want her friends really knowing that she had this threat in her personal life. So it made the jobs that much more difficult because I would have to stay in the shadows, but remain in constant eyesight of them, but also be able to react so I couldn't be too far. And so, you're going in and out of stores. They're going into girl sections and you're a dude going into
it's like Victoria's Secret and doing this weird shopping with this girl that's not with you.
They had to
how weird. I'm over here looking at your wife. His wife and baby here too. And it's like
the way I got the job, the last guy got relieved because they kept getting pedophile calls in. Because he was outside of the preschools and stuff.
Yeah.
And he looked like a creeper.
Little creep.
So they had to go, and they're like, we need like someone that like looks.
You're becoming a red
part.
flag here.
You are a red flag, sir. You look like a creeper. I mean, to the point where cops were coming out, and she would have to go out and be like, he's with me.
Here's
like,
the deal.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So it got to a point where, you know, I got the job, and, you know, we ended up becoming really close, and her friends she ended up telling her friends, because I was telling her, it's like, this is very difficult to me to track you and follow you and not be like seen by your friends on a daily basis. Right. So then it kind of shot me in the foot, because I was now in the loop. So when they went to spin class, guess who had to go to spin class? I did. So here I am on a spin bike, dying in spin class, because they're now looking at me like, oh, you're a Marine. You better, you know, crush us on this board, because it displays all your scores.
All your stats, yeah.
So I'm like wanting to throw up, and some of these chicks are smoking it on the you know, these bikes, and I'm going like, what did I get myself into? You know, they go for a run, you go for a run.
Yoga.
They go for a stroll.
You're like, I got this. Yoga.
Yoga.
Yoga's hard, dude.
Oh, no joke. I went on I told you about the ride, the special operation ride that we did.
Yeah.
One a couple of years back, and we were sitting inside the bar getting ready for one of the stops, which was a yoga stop. We didn't know what Bikram yoga was.
I don't know what that is either, but it makes me nervous.
So here we are drinking beer and taking shots in mid-afternoon. And the girl comes over and goes, what are you guys doing? We have class in like 20 minutes. We're like, yeah, it's yoga. We got it. We're coming there stretching a little bit. She goes, okay, guys. We get in there, and we're looking at each other like, so we pulled the instructor aside, like, I think your guys' AC is broke. Like, it's hot in here. And they looked at us like, excuse us? And these are all special operation guys. And I am not anywhere near how cool these dudes are. Like, these dudes are Ricky Recons, like what you see in movies.
Right.
And I'm seeing them worried, and now I'm worried. Like, what are we doing? What do we get? They're like, no, it's going to get about like 110 in here. We're like, excuse us? We almost died that yoga class. Like, died. It was so out of control.
Funny.
But yeah, yoga's tough. So that brings us back.
Yeah.
To
the family. So it's interesting, because you don't talk to a lot of people that are kind of security for a high level family like that. And you were obviously got very close with them.
Yeah.
You probably developed some sort of like relationship with the kids.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You saw them grow up. You were there for the temper tantrums, the good times, the bad times, the crying, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, have so many questions in my head in a way. It's like, how much of that kind of prepared you? You didn't have kids at the time. How long? So
no kids.
You're like,
no.
holy shit. Were you like, I'm never having kids?
I always loved kids. I always wanted to be a father. Growing up, I was like, I just can't wait to be a dad. I can't wait. I always had that. I want that dad. Some guys just want to be a father. Mm-hmm. Other guys take it or leave it. They don't really care. Like, if I get someone pregnant and we get married, great. Right. But I really wanted to have a family one day with the right person. Mm-hmm. You know, I just wasn't out there trying to have a child. Like, you want to have a baby?
Yeah, right.
Can I be your baby daddy? So it did prepare me, but it gave me a great deal of respect for my mom and the stuff that we put her through. And I was just like, being a parent is
no joke.
And it's not, and being a parent is different than raising kids and trying to be their friends. Like, being a parent and being both enforcer and friend, it is
hard. It's a fine line to balance, and you're kind of jumping back and forth between, because I can be both very easily. Like, I can be like, you're going to stop doing that right now. I'm going to get dad voice on, and we're like, this is going to happen. You're going to stop that. I'm going to spank you, whatever the case is. But then on the flip side of it, we're having the most fun, and we're riding skateboards, and we're doing all things. But it is a very delicate line. And I think you have to ride both sides of it, because if you're too much this or too much that, I think it could get bad either way.
And I think it's important to understand what kids you can, you know, I don't want to say discipline or whatever one way, and the other one's on the other side of the spectrum.
Sure.
Like, your parenting skills have to be very dynamic to be able to have a fluid relationship with your kids, because if you're not, you're one of them is going to lack your relationship with one of your child. If you don't have a dynamic, how you do that.
Parenting skills. Yeah. Cause it's not a one size fits all treatment. It's not a prescription for this is how
No,
you like.
it's not.
Every kid's different. We've talked about this so many times, it's like,
I go back to dogs. Dogs are the same way. And I tell this to people all the time that bring me dogs. Like, just because you did this with your last dog doesn't mean this is the way we're going to train this dog. Like,
right.
They don't all learn the same. They might need a stronger hand, or they might need a lot more positive reinforcement to get the job done. And it changes for every dog. Every situation is going to be different. You have to be able to read those dogs to be able to do that. Same thing with kids. You've got to be able to read what you're getting out, and maybe you have to input something a little bit differently to get a different result. But it taught me a whole lot. And I brought a lot of that actually into the dog training world with me. I brought my military background and, what I learned on the job with them into dog training. How did I get to dog training is probably the next question.
Yeah. So what was the transition from executive protection to dog training? Was that the next step, or was there something in between?
So I always loved dogs. I was that child that brought home rescue dogs all the time and got yelled at by my mom.
Your mom's
and
what are you doing?
We can't have another dog. I used to bring little puppies, and I used to name them alcohol names growing up. So we had
probably phased out of that.
So we had tequila, Hennessy, and
bourbon, whiskey.
I remember the one time she comes in, she's like, I'm done with all these dogs. I sound like an alcoholic out back screaming, tequila, Hennessy. She's like, what do our neighbors think? They probably think I'm an alcoholic looking for alcohol. And I'm like, you're probably right. Never thought about it like that, Mom.
Sorry, Mom.
You got a good point. We should probably stop naming these dogs alcohol. But as a kid, when you're younger, 16, that was cool.
It's cool. Yeah. That's so funny. I want to bounce back to the executive protection stuff because it's just a question that was in my head. And I'm curious how you dealt with it, because I'm sure there was things that you knew about the people in the family that were sort of secret to them, or things that maybe the kids were doing that the mom shouldn't know about, but you now know. Were you obligated to kind of spill the beans on certain things, or did you just stay out of that?
Honestly,
no. Your job is to make sure everyone's safe. So, I'm not getting involved. So with the he said, she said.
Two things. So I ran into two issues on the job. One, knowing intel about a potential threat that I couldn't let the wife know about, right? So why aren't we going here? I need to go do this. We just need...
And you're like, no, we can't do that.
Brady, tell me what's going on. Trust me, we just got to go here, okay? That was tough because of that really close bond that we had, that she felt like, why aren't you telling me? Right. We're friends. Why? We're very close friends. We're brother and sister. Why aren't you telling me what's going on? And then the other thing was, on the flip side was when we would do work for the husband, and we'd be up in New York, getting in at 2 a.m. with, someone who was out doing business work at the bar, being mad at me for bringing home him drunk. Why are you mad at me?
Yeah.
It was it was so funny to kind of see the two sides of it. But it was fun though. It was honestly, it was a once in a lifetime experience. We just went over to the family's house before coming down here. They're an amazing family. And actually the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is because of her husband. He pushed me down the path of where we are now.
Very cool.
So
some support there. That's awesome.
And we can get into how and why that happened. Because I was training dogs on the side when I was doing the EP work, but it wasn't enough to make it, full time, where I was just doing it because I like doing it, helping people out with their dogs. Hobby, doing things with dogs that had issues. Excuse me.
Yep.
The big thing that I liked doing was getting dogs that had behavioral issues and figuring out why. I went to school for psychology and criminal justice, and the big question was always why. Why do people act this way? Why did that happen to this person? Was the upbringing different? And I look at the dogs the same way. You know, you look at these rescue dogs. Why is this dog aggressive? Why is this dog this way? So I started doing a lot of going to rescues and trying to help out with dogs that had these severe issues that their next stop was, you know, to death. And I wanted to say, you know, why are you doing what you're doing? Can't we get on the page where we're communicating and get past this threshold of why? So I think that's why I originally got into it, was the why. Why is this dog doing this? Why does this dog have aggression? Why is this dog acting out?
Did you always have an interest in psychology like that?
Yeah, always.
You were the kid that asked 1,000 questions.
Yeah, and now I'm the dad that says, "Don't ask any questions.
Don't ask me. Just do it.
Do it. I just need you to do it." So that's. I mean, that's. I liked to solve problems. I like to help, but not.
You like to understand.
Behind why.
Yeah.
Like why? Why did you punch him in the face? Like, what made you want to punch that child in the face? Like, let's talk about that.
Why did you eat this guy's face off, dog?
So,
yeah. Okay. So you go from the EP work to dog training.
So one night coming back from New York City, I'm driving the husband back, and he's had a few drinks, and he usually always work, like I said. He's usually on his cell phone. He's always on a computer, working. This night home, he looked at me and said, "What do you want to do the rest of your life?" And I'm like, "What?
I don't know. I thought I was hanging out with you."
Yeah. Well, am I being fired? He's like, I mean, I know you don't want to be a nanny with a gun the rest of your life, because that's pretty much what I was, right?
Interesting way to describe it.
I was a nanny with a gun. I was a high-speed nanny. That's exactly.
High-speed nanny. That'd be such a great Instagram page for like.
I need a patch. High-speed nanny. So
that is hilarious. I think I need to make that patch.
High-speed nanny.
Can I use that?
Yeah, I love that.
100%.
Hashtag high-speed nanny.
Fantastic. Although I guess you'd call that dad with a gun, but
so anyway, so I said, well, no, I mean, but this is why I enjoy what I'm doing now. But you're right. No, he's like, well, what do you enjoy doing? Like, what's your passion? Like, what do you wake up? Like, what do you think about all the time? Fuels your fire, right? Yeah. And I was like, dog. He's like, don't you like dog stuff? Like, yeah, I see you do dog stuff, dog training stuff. And I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, why don't you do a dog training company? Why don't you go train dogs? I'm like, yeah, that would be great if I
could make some real money doing it. That'd be great.
Do it, right? He's like, well, one thing I learned and how we got to where we're at now is me and my brother quit our jobs and went all in. He's like, you got to go all in to follow your dream. If you're doing half in, half out, you have that safety net to always fall back on. So you never go
all in.
Yep. Even if you say you're going all in, you're not going all in, because you have that safety net. So I said, well, I can't just quit my job, and I have a mortgage. I have no vehicle because they provided me with a beautiful vehicle on a yearly basis.
Right.
They paid for gas. Like, I mean, they paid for
a lot of your expenses.
All my expenses were paid for. So, and I had very nice salary, health. I mean, you name it, it was taken care of. So like, what am I supposed to do? Just cut everything off and hope for the best? He's like, all right. He's like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a check for $25,000. All right. I'm going to write you a check when we get to the house for $25,000. And you can take that check, go put a deposit on a car, go do whatever you want with it. Put it towards a business. If you come into work tomorrow, you're fired, and I'm going to rip up the check. And I'm thinking, he's drunk. Like, and I was just like, okay, like, all right, yep,
yeah, sure.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
All right, shh, go back to sleep. like,
we'll be home in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I'll see you at work tomorrow. So we get to the house, and he gets out, gets in the back, grabs his stuff out of the back, and his door's still open. I'm like, where is he? Next thing you know, he pops in and hands me a check. And I was like, I'm not taking this. Here. He's like, I'm serious. You come into work, you're fired. Okay. So I wake up the next morning and I get a call from my boss, my EP boss, and he's a Marine too. I mean, you look up, Ricky Recon in the dictionary, you see him like beard, tattoos everywhere, scary dude. Where are you? And I'm like, I'm at home. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, he said I would be fired. He's like, what? I was like, bro, he gave me a check for $25,000, told me not to come into work or if I was fired. I was like, can you double check that? Is he in the office? He's like, yeah, he's in the office. I'll call you back. He calls him back. He goes, don't come in. I was like, for real? He's like, for real. He said, do not come in or you're fired. And that was it. I didn't come back in. I got a nasty gram from the wife saying, where are you? Because she never wasn't told anything.
She didn't know what was going on, yeah.
And obviously that's a big change of pace for her, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, there was very little threat. The FBI did the raids. They arrested. They put a lot of people away. So the immediate threat was kind of gone. So it was more of a nanny job at that point, honestly. So it wasn't like, wow, you left the wife all out hanging out to dry.
Right.
There was no immediate threat.
The job was kind of done at that point.
But at that point, I literally hit the ground running. I made an LLC. I started going out. I bought a van. A couple days later, I wrapped it with my company logo. And
Canine Gunner Tactical. Shameless plug.
Canine Gunner Tactical. Follow us on Instagram, social media, YouTube. So I started going into parks and posting up at a park during the day on a major highway. And I started bringing out my own dogs and
Just
training
like walking
them
around and
like I was training like a client's dog.
Yeah.
So people would drive by and say, hey, I saw you training at the park. Do you do training, blah, blah, blah. And I would, give them the spiel. And at that point, I didn't even have a web page, nothing. No training facility. I said, yep, we can do this. Meet me at this park at this time. And that's how I started my company, was in a van,
just
at a park,
grinding.
And I grinded, and I started doing drug rehabs, searching drug rehabs with our detection dogs. We had drug detection dogs that we do private rehabs with. So they would find like one pill Percocet, stuff like that. The kids would sneak in heroin. So we'd run our dogs through there, and then from there.
Oh, so you were doing this for drug rehab facilities?
Yeah, so private rehab facilities.
Okay.
To pitch to families to send their kids to these rehabs was the safety net of that. They are taking the extra precaution of not only having these security stuff, these extra protocols in play, but they're also having random canine searches that were not police related. So there was no worry about being in trouble. Right. So we find this stuff,
take it.
They dispose of it. They deal with it. They put them back through. Why'd you do this? Put them back through the program. And at that point, I met one of my partners, one of my former partners that, he helped me build the business into a business, because kind of like we were talking about yesterday, there's one thing about having a great idea, being good at your craft, being good at something, but that doesn't make you good at building a business. You have to know what you're good at, and you also have to educate. And that's
self-awareness on it's huge. Like we wouldn't be here with this business, and you've been around here, and it's like,
this operation is legit.
Like, and a lot of this stuff I don't show on Instagram. So like most people don't realize the full maybe magnitude of like the space here and like what's happening. But
this space is beautiful, for one.
I appreciate it.
Two, you go to a lot of social media places. Well, you see a lot of things on social media. Then you go to those locations and they're nothing close to what you thought. So they're like, ran poorly. I mean, this place here, hats off to you. This place is beautiful, for one. Everyone here is super polite, and it is like a fine-tuned machine.
Yeah.
Like, this place is
it's interesting
legit.
how quiet things are, right? Like I was telling you on the boat yesterday, I was like, we just have such a foundation in place. And it's an online business. There's not 1,000 people running around like crazy, and it's not all this noise. It's like, anyways. But I couldn't have built it without my business partner. Like, he has that business mindset, and he loves crunching numbers and dealing with spreadsheets and all that stuff. Like, I want to put a gun in my mouth with a spreadsheet.
I can't even. The ongoing joke with us is I can't do Excel. If you told me to put together Excel, I have no clue where to start.
Right.
And that's like the joke. Like, hey, Brady, why don't you put that in Excel? I'm like,
build a spreadsheet.
Funny. I'll put in
like I can
notes.
do it, right? I do that stuff when I need to around the things that I need to. Like I run all the marketing stuff. So like all the marketing budgets and all the data behind the marketing stuff. I'm super into those kinds of numbers. But like the rest of it, I just can't. Like I want to be creating something, building something, making a new mag, improving a product, whatever the case is, creating content, doing this kind of stuff. So yeah, the self-awareness side of it is huge because like you have to have the right people in the right place that are good at their craft to help, I don't know, what's the word, supplement, I guess, your skills.
And it's big to understand how to grow and how to not grow too quickly where it puts you out of business.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know how to throttle off to make more success in the long term. Because people think throttle, like more business.
You have to go
fill more kennels, bring more dogs in, buy a bigger facility. Like,
and you did that,
and I did that, and it was almost a huge Achilles heel of our company, and we'll get into that too, because no one knows what we talked about last night because it's very, very, very recent, and it was something that we weren't planning on doing, but we were forced to do, unfortunately. But I think eventually it was a good thing that we did it. That Andor's like walking around off camera. He's like ready to rock and roll.
You can let him off that leash. He can just kind of hang out.
Andor off. Good boy, Liven. So a lot of people look at a business.
Like, your baby is so good too. Like
right?
Between last night, I haven't heard a peep out of that baby.
You're gonna jinx.
Yeah, I better knock on wood.
He is the best baby. We say that all the time. He is amazing. We've been super blessed. He's truly a blessing to us. And he's already got a good little personality. He's like 4 weeks old and he's like all looking around. He crawls up your chest. Like He is strong, super vigilant. I feel like I'm describing a dog.
Well, there's so much. Well, there's a lot of crossover.
He's got great drive. He's got great nipple drive.
Right. Yeah. Super obedient.
So
sits on command.
So yeah. So brings me back to getting our one of our first large locations. It was a 26 acre. It was 100 dog kennel, but we made it a 50 dog kennel facility. The thing was massive. I mean, this thing was massive. It had I housed trainers on there. We housed our family on there. We had 2 indoor training facilities, all indoor, outdoor runs, large indoor, outdoor runs. And the numbers seemed really good when they were on Excel. Right. So if you could fill X, Y, and Z on a daily basis, you're going to crush it. Like you're going to make buku. But my big thing was I never wanted to be a dog boarding facility. I always wanted to be a dog trainer. Mm-hmm. And that's what I am as a dog trainer.
Your passion is training.
I'm not into let's board a dog. And, because the dog training world is crazy. The dog people are nuts. Some people want bedtime stories read to their dogs. What? I'm not even joking.
Oh man.
Bedtime stories. Can you give Fluffy needs this blankie before he goes to bed every night? I'm not even joking. We had drop down arguments what we were going to charge upcharges for because I couldn't put read your dog a bedtime story on my website. I settled for extra walks, peanut butter bone at night. But you look up these places, they're charging $20 a night for a bedtime story where someone's going in and reading your dog a bedtime story. I'm not even
you're
joking.
A nanny with a leash.
Bro, it was, when I started getting more and more, because if I do something, I want to know everything about it. Like, I get into it. So I started going.
And why?
And why? And I started going to other boarding facilities like I was going to board my dog there and like reconning them and like walking through it. And I was disgusted. I'm like, people like trust them. Like because I could see through the, read between the lines with like
BS,
these places. And I'm like, this is awful. Like these dogs are not being housed correctly. This is not proper maintenance of this facility. This is disgusting. And I said to my partner, I was like, I won't run a shop like this. I can tell you that. So that's where we're at, not happening. So we didn't, but we didn't make buku money because we didn't run it like a chop shop. We could have. Right. We could have stacked dogs.
It's easy to cut those corners, cut those expenses.
I'm sure like gear, right? Like you can probably make a bag 10 times cheaper.
Yeah, good.
But why?
Right. Yeah, you could not use YKK zippers, and you could not use good hardware and all that kind of stuff.
But you're like me. If you're going to put your name on it, you damn well know that you're going to be proud of it, and it's going to be something you like. You're using your bag. You're not making a bag. Like I see some of these bag companies and these tactical companies producing stuff, and you see them in public. They're not even having their own stuff.
Right.
They have some high-end company or whatever name company, and that's what the stuff they use on a daily basis. And they're not even using their own gear. Why? Because they made it to make profit. Mm-hmm. They didn't make it for use for themselves because that's what they like.
Right.
And I look at the dog training world and the dog boarding facility the same way. If I wouldn't board my dog there, that's not how I'm going to do it. So that was always my criteria. And we were always on the road too. So my staff needed to take care of my dogs. So I couldn't just hire anyone. I needed someone that had full trust that I could let into my house at any moment, that I maybe had my family there, not had my family there. I was on the road, that they were able to go take out my personal dogs when I wasn't home. So quality was huge for us. But unfortunately, that runs us into the pandemic and everything. Prior to that, we were looking to open up a location down in Florida. And this is like groundbreaking news bringing
this just in. Travis, put a breaking news graphic in here.
This just in, groundbreaking. So no one knows this yet. There's only a handful of people that know this about our company, because the New Jersey location was our baby. That was my baby. So the plan was to open up another location in Boca and sell. We had another property in PA that we kind of lived back and forth with the kids because they go to school over in PA, which was quite the distance from the location, about an hour. So our plan was to sell that and then move down there, but still run the facility up here. Oh, not up here, up in Jersey. But when the whole pandemic thing hit, it hit us so hard that we couldn't maintain. So we had to make the hard decision of what do we do? Do we kind of squash the family moving goals and all that and just continue hustling and grinding? And when I mean hustle and grinding, we were crushing it to maintain, like to keep the doors open.
Because overhead's expensive.
Overhead
was
people,
you got
huge. Yeah. Because again, we paid for quality. We wanted people that were working for us that were not minimum wage workers. We wanted people that wanted to come to work, that were highly skilled. Our kennel staff employees, these were people that were letting out dogs, like letting out a dog, cleaning up poop, had college degrees, former military people. Like these weren't just like your, found them on Craigslist. They're going to let out some dogs for some minimum wage. So we hired out, quality. Why? Because that's what I expected. But unfortunately, we had to make that hard decision. We had to completely sell all entities on that property, and we had to kind of move forward from that. But I look at it as a huge learning experience with being careful.
If you can look at anything like positive, negative, anything, and learn something and take away from it, you're already winning.
And this was, I'm huge with, I'm just like you. I like helping people out if I can. Like if I can give you a piece of advice and give it to you for free, great. Let you learn from my mistakes. And that's what I try telling all newer dog trainers. We had a couple DMs on my side of, people asking questions because I reposted. Yeah. And one of the big things was, how do I become a dog trainer? How do I do this? Is it worth going to these dog training academies that they have out there? The thing about the dog training world, I kind of think of it like the shooting world. I think you can kind of relate. There's not one, there's a lot of different shooting schools, right? So there's a lot of different high speed people that are really good at shooting, right? There's a lot of different tactics. There's a lot of different ways to, shoot a gun. This is why you're doing this. This is what you need to do. If you have a shooting school and I come to your shooting school and I get a accreditation from your shooting school, and then I want to go get a job at your brother's shooting facility, and he doesn't believe in your ways of shooting, I'm not going to get the job. No matter how much it costs me for that training certificate, he doesn't value it. It's not valued. Why? Because there's no this is how you do it, period. This is the minimum you need to know. And honestly, a lot of dog...
It's kind of like the NRA instructor certification.
Yeah. So there's a lot of dog trainers that hire people that's never touched a dog. So that's their criteria. When they're looking to hire trainers was, do you like dogs? Yes. Have you owned a dog? Yes. Have you been a trainer before? No? Okay, you're hired. Why? Because it's kind of like shooting. You have no bad habits. Bad habits. Bad habits, just like shooting, are hard to break. So a lot of people look at that when it comes to dog training and being a dog trainer. My one advice that I would give to upcoming wanting to be a dog trainer: go get your hands on leashes at your local shelter. The more times that you pick up a leash and it's a different dog on the end of that leash, you're learning something. You're learning to communicate with that dog. You're learning to read that dog. And the more times you're doing that with different dogs, the more skilled you're becoming. That's where I got 90% of my training. There was no high-speed school that I went to. People were like, where did you learn all your stuff? I self-educated. I learned from everyone, and I still do. I'm a huge advocate of telling people, even my own clients, go to this seminar. There's a seminar local that's not me hosting it. Go there. You might learn something that maybe it's something that I'm not teaching.
Some random nuance.
Maybe it's a different way that they're teaching that you might understand a little bit differently than how I'm teaching you. But just like everything, knowledge is power.
You just said something very important, and that was something you're not teaching the dog owner, because you're not only training dogs, but you're training dog owners. That's
everything.
That's a huge part of it.
That's everything. So if you send your kid to boot camp at a young age, let's just say a kid boot camp, like, you got a young teen, getting that kid from boot camp doesn't mean he's going to continue being good when he's back home for a month. Why? Because you're not the boot camp instructor learning how to make that kid understand what he should and shouldn't be doing. Well, same thing with dog training. Just because you send your dog off to boot camp, when you get the dog back home, if you're not properly educated, how do you maintain? They're not robots, just like children. They're not robots. Most of the time they take the easiest path, and a lot of times that's bad behavior because it's the most rewarding. Barking, all these chasing behaviors. These are all rewarding behaviors that the dogs learn. And it's something that we have to teach the dog that it's not okay, and not reinforcing them by continuing letting them do it. So that's the big thing is getting them to, dog owners to learn how to communicate with the dog and continue that stuff.
Right.
But where were we? Dog trainer. So that would be my number one advice is go shadow a trainer if you can. And a lot of trainers pay for it. Pay for doing work where you're actually going to a facility, do your homework, go to a facility, make sure that your morals align with their morals, with how they're training dogs. You will pay them for you to do the poop work. You're going to pay. So you're like, you're going to make me pay someone to pick up poop and walk dogs.
I'm paying to do this.
Yes. Why? Because you're in a shadow program.
It's education. It's learning.
It's learning.
It's
hands-on.
It's tuition. Yeah.
Or go to your local shelter and walk dogs. Get your hands on as many dogs as possible. And then online stuff and, any type of e-learning that you can get your hands on nowadays. E-learning is like a dime a dozen, right? There's like,
seemingly,
go online, come join my online dog training program. There's tons of stuff out there available for people. And plug, we're going to be coming out with an online dog training program.
There you go.
That you're going to be able to download an app straight from your phone, and you're going to be able to Follow along, communicate with us on a daily basis, weekly basis, tune in for live stuff. And we're hoping to be as high speed as Baby Tactical Gear here as their setup one day down in Boca. But yeah, so we are going back down to Boca, and we're going to be starting doing some dog training down in South Florida with the family. I'm going to dial stuff back a little bit.
Pull the throttle back
like we were talking about, but also I'm going to be able to provide more content for a larger audience, because we're going to hone in on a lot more video content with producing stuff for free, putting a lot of stuff out there on social media channels with, how-tos and, little stuff. Because before we were so sucked into that client in front of us that we didn't have time for social media. It killed us. And I think that we can help a greater good, and also our local people that we're training with being able to provide more content online when they're not in front of us. Right. So that's going to be huge for us.
Do you guys get your older kids involved with the dogs and stuff quite a bit?
We actually have a kid training program. I truly believe in getting these children involved into the dogs at home. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy. People are real hesitant to let their children handle the dogs. I think
that was huge for us when we were kids. We had a German Shepherd that we had trained, and then the trainer came and trained us, and you're going to, get the dog to heel. If he's walking in front of you, you're going to pull this leash back. You're going to keep him right here.
And I think
if you don't train every person that's going to be walking that dog on how it needs to be done properly and what the commands are and how to deal with it, then you're losing.
And it links over into basic stuff inside the home, with dogs getting away with stuff with certain members of the household because they don't know how to communicate with the dog. They haven't been on that leash where they're building that communication. They're building that foundation work with that dog because they've always just been kind of running around like another puppy in the house. Right. And that's how the dog looks at those individuals in the house as other playmates. Mm-hmm. So when you're teaching and educating these kids, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And this is why we need to do it. They really start connecting the dots. We even have it to the point where we actually have children or kids that get dogs for Christmas, right? I want a puppy. So what do their parents do? They get them a puppy. Well, what happens to that puppy? Well, they're done with it by, when they're, pooping and all right, this is not fun anymore.
Yeah. 2 months later.
So we have parents that drop off their kids to dog training, our one-on-one session, like it was soccer practice. We give them report cards. Really? Oh, yeah. We give them homework assignments to go home. Their parents fill out the report cards, whether the child fed the dog, walked the dog, cleaned up the poop. Those report cards come back to us. We discuss it with the child and, what are we doing? What do we need to do?
It's actually really good. I think just structure for the kid and
it shows responsibility. It teaches them this is something that I wanted. And I need, it's not just short-lived. I want this. Okay, it's fun. I don't want it anymore. So it teaches that more of a long-term responsibility of having something. And I think it's super important to add that into children's life. And a lot of kids, I think nowadays lack that. They just lack that. There's no responsibilities. There's no structure. It's a free-for-all. Go online and play games. Do whatever you want to do.
Structure is a big thing. And this is actually something I want to kind of circle back to as we talk about grinding and working and hustling and building a business and how easy it is. And I brought up, Gary Vee earlier. We had Gary Vee on the podcast last year, and he's the number one advocate for hard work, hustle, grind. But the big question he gets, and a lot of the criticism he gets, is the work-life balance. Well, do you spend any time with your kids? And he has, everyone has their own kind of outlook on this, and he's well, I didn't know my dad till I was 14. And I'm talking about legit. I asked him, I'm so you say you didn't know your dad till I was 14, but he's no, bro, I'm telling you, I didn't see my dad until I was 14. There was the random, always the random, I saw him in the kitchen, or I remember this one time when I was 8 and we were going to spend the whole day with dad, but he was just so tired and he slept all day. So I just went and played with my friends like it was any other day. Yeah. He's man, it wasn't a big deal to me. I never saw him anyway. So, yeah, but it's really interesting because I'm super hands-on with my kids, and I am definitely guilty of working way too much at times, and being I'll do that next week.
I'll get around to it.
You know what I mean? But I'm curious, when you're doing the EP work for that family and the dad that was always working, how did you see that affect their family dynamic? Or when he was home, was he home? Or when he was home, he was still working, but he was there? You know what I mean? I'm kind of curious about that on such a high level of somebody that's doing that.
This is my personal outlook on parenting. I think that some people, doesn't matter man or woman, are wired to do certain things. And some people just don't have it in their wheelhouse to even do it at all. Like their heart's in the right spot, but like they're just not a dad or they're just not a mom. Like regardless the time that they want to put into it or can put in it, they're just not wired that way. I think that some people just aren't that way. And I think that he's an amazing father. Like he's a good dad. Like he works his butt off. He plays with the kids, stuff like that. But when you talk about like father stuff, where a lot of people have that mindset, and I think it goes back to what you posted about Gary Vee with, we have a mindset of, parenting. We also have a mindset what a father should be, or what a mom should be. And we always, we have that already preset in our brain with how we were raised
because of around the way society
family,
is
right?
kind of
how my parents interacted. My father was a very, very work-driven man. Mm-hmm. He loved us. He was a great father. He was my best friend on the road when we did hockey and stuff. I mean, he was the one that took me to hockey and stuff, all that type of stuff. But at the same time, he was a go-getter. He busted his ass to make money. That way we had the things that we had and had the opportunities because he wanted the best for the kids. But I think when you have that not balanced, hierarchy at the house where it's like work, parent, there's no in between. Mm-hmm. I think it puts stress on that stay-at-home person to be that both enforcer, friend, and if they're not good at finding that balance, it's kind of like step parents. You don't have to be a split household to be a step parent, or I'm sorry, a single mother or a single father. You can still be married and still be a single mother. Why? Because you're doing everything. You're doing. You don't have to be divorced to have that responsibility of both sides of the house. Just because there's, mom and dad at home doesn't mean that the mom is taking the responsibility of, just one of those aspects. So I think it adds a lot of stress on the one side of the house that's around to make that daily, can't do this, you can do this type of decisions. Like last night, I'm yelling at her to go to sleep. Like, go to bed. I got first watch. Like I do it like military. Like right. We go in shifts. I got first watch, you got second watch. And then it rotates from there. Like if baby doesn't wake up like he did last night, he slept, of course, all nights. I had first watch. He kind of did me dirty. He didn't wake up till 2. And I'm sitting in bed going, you gonna wake up? Wake up, because usually he wakes up closer to 12, and then I feed, diaper, burp, back to bed, and he comes about 3, 4, he'll get back up. This mofo was just comfy.
Snoozing.
And I am so frustrated that he is still sleeping. Of all parents, like you're frustrated that your child's sleeping. But I was yelling at her, like, go to bed. And she's like, no, like we do everything as a team. Like, I just want to stay up. I'm like, it doesn't help the team out if we're both tired. Like, go to bed. Like, so that's how we roll with our house. We're very team oriented. Our slogan,
like we kind
build
of
a bond, build trust, build your team. That's our big slogan, right? That's relationship with your dog, relationship with your family, relationship with your significant other. There has to be a balance. There has to be communication. There has to be a happy medium of both. Understanding of what's expected and what's not expected.
Right. And I think that's kind of where my question boils down to, is the communication of like that work-life balance and how it affects one another. And Gary talks about that kind of stuff too quite a bit. He's like, you have to have communication. If my wife, if I need to be home for the kids or this or that, he's like, I'll do it.
And he says, I will drop that and not do that.
Sure.
To be there.
Definitely. But there's a side of people like him or me or you or that are wired to work that like, you have to be somewhat selfish at times and make sure that you're doing what's best for you, that's going to make you happy so that you can take care of your family. Because like I know me, and if like I don't do well with vacations at all.
Really?
Like, the kids want to go to Disney World or something like that.
You to me, I would look at you as like the Disney dad.
Oh man,
No?
Disney stresses me out. Well, it's not even that Disney stresses me out. Like I enjoy it now. The kids are a little older, and it's not so like your 2-year-old just ran off into a crowd of people. It's a little better now, you know.
Carry me.
Right, exactly. And like they can eat their ice cream or whatever, and it doesn't make such a mess. So like anxiety comes down a little bit, but I just like I'm wired to work, so I have to. It takes a lot of energy for me to not work. And then I start getting really grumpy, and I'm not fun to be around if I can't work.
Yeah.
So I have to, there's times where I'm like, hey, you guys hang out at the pool. I'm going up to the hotel room. Like I need to work for like 3 hours and then I'll be cool. Like,
cause you got this hanging over you.
There's like some stress or pressure of like, this thing needs to get done or whatever.
That's how she is. She runs the back operations of everything, answering emails. And I understand why, because they'll pile up, and then just because like put it off. When you get back to it, you're even more stressed out than just taking that 2-3 hours to crush something out and then going back to that work-life balance. But that's big because a lot of people, they think, oh, I'm just going to focus on my family. Well, a lot of times that doesn't help your family. Like you have to know what that happy balance is, and just putting work on the back burner doesn't make you a happier, fun dad, because now if work's piling up, that's going to bring stress back into your
It's
family.
tough, and it's a balance, and there's no like perfect balance or no perfect answer to
It's
it.
a dance.
And it is. It's
a dance.
You kind of like lean a little too far this way and a little back that way, and ideally it all works itself out in the end. But it's an interesting thing that I'm constantly battling myself, and like I just worked my ass off recently into a position of like bad, like
shut down, complete shutdown,
burnt out in a way where I was just go. We were launching all these new products. Quarantine was a thing. So like not only here, but like at home, it was like double duty. I mean, you know how it's been with all the homeschooling, all this stuff, and the added stress, and my wife breaking down. She doesn't know what to do. So I'm dealing with her stress on me, with the business stress on me, with all this other stuff. And I was like, I put out something recently. I was like, I just like mentally, I couldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to be here. I wanted to get stuff done, but I'd stare at a list of things to do and just like, I felt like I was just clicking refresh on my computer all day.
We talked about hitting the reset button yesterday. Remember, sometimes you just need to reset to just be sane. Like you need to hit that reset button sometimes. And that's what's forced us with this whole shutdown is it's kind of forced me to reevaluate everything and hit that reset button, and to say, enough's enough. Why I'm stressing my family out, her out with trying to get this big nut every month to maintain this facility.
Right.
For what? Like, what are we doing it for? And it forced us to hit that reset button. But I think it's a good thing. I think I think the quarantine is making a lot of people, it's going one of two ways. It's either breaking you where you are hitting that point where it's like it hurt you, or you're figuring out, it's opening your eyes to a lot of things.
Like what's actually important
and pushing you kind of like that. My old boss kind of pushing you to the ledge and saying, like,
if you come back, you're fired.
You're fired. Don't come back here. But yeah, so I think it's a happy balance, and I think that's go back to dog training a lot with being balanced, and you got to be balanced in your approach with how you're training dogs. And I know we haven't really talked much about the company as a whole, but we are really well known for training very aggressive case dogs. And when I say very aggressive, a lot of times they're not that quote unquote forward aggressive. They're more fear-based aggressive. And we do a lot of them, and a lot of people don't touch them. And we have a different approach to a lot of these dogs.
You seem to really enjoy that. Like you really specialize in that.
Well, they say a lot of people, a lot of veterans find outlets to get some type of high. And when I mean some type of high, I mean some type of adrenaline rush. So you've been in combat, you felt something, that adrenaline dump that you can never receive again unless you go in that situation again.
That danger zones.
Most people can relate to this if you ever had a near miss in a car accident, right? Like you're like, whoa, like, I mean, your heightened sense, like you're like, oh my God, that just happened. And like, it's that times 1,000. And a lot of veterans chase this, and that's how a lot of veterans get hurt on motorcycles, other activities, skydiving. But there's nothing better in my mind to getting into a 5x5 kennel with a dog that wants to rip my face off, and then figuring out why you want to rip my face off.
Let's talk about this, buddy. Cujo.
we just posted a video on our page of a dog that came through, and he hated me. I mean, he hated me when he came into my facility. But by the time he left, he's like, doing, sitting on my lap, licking me.
I have a dog like that. And that's actually why I got him. And I was terrified of this dog.
Really?
I was like,
did you rescue him, or he was like someone had him and I can't handle him?
Yeah, well, I think that was what the case. They like took him to this kennel, and then so I come from the car background, right? And I had this big car shop, and we had this big fenced-in yard, and I was having break-ins all the time. People hopping the fence.
I need Cujo.
Smashing windows out, stealing stuff out of cars, like 30 times in a summer this happened. And I was just like, multiple times a week.
And that's pretty big, because we've gotten contact with by a couple repo lots that house cars inside that they're waiting, and people break in and like, is it owners? Of the cars that trying to get stuff out of them?
In my case, it wasn't.
It was just people trying to steal.
We had customers' cars that we were, modifying or doing whatever too. And they were like a lot of times like, higher end things, but like we couldn't put them all inside. So we had this big fenced in, lot. And they would hop the fence, smash windows, steal radios, steal seats out of cars, like racing seats and, stuff like that. And it's like, so I was like, well, I'm going to get a dog and we're going to fix this problem, So, I mentioned that to somebody, and like, oh man, you should go over here. They've got this German Shepherd. And I was like, I love German Shepherd. I had a Shepherd growing up, and like, they're just great dogs. Like, I've got a tattoo of one here. I've got a paw print. His name was Ranger.
Oh, sick.
So I was like, awesome. So I'm like, I called. They're like, yeah, we still got him. I'm like,
yeah, we got him. Come get him.
Yeah. Well, I go over there,
Free.
And they're acting like it's no big deal, right? And
they're like, everyone be cool. We need this dog to leave here. All right.
Well, that's almost what it was like.
Dog.
What's really funny is that's probably what was happening. They were all playing it cool. Like, yeah, no big deal. Like,
nice go.
Well, so I'm like walking down this hallway, and it's like just dog kennels, like, chain link fence doors, and like walk around. I turn this corner into the door of this one kennel, and this dude just, I was like, oh my God.
I'll take him.
Where do I sign? And they're like, well, let's take him outside. Yeah, it's what I was like. Oh, hell yeah! So, they walk me outside. They put me in this. It was like I don't know, probably 50 by 50 run. The dog goes in there. I go in there. They close the gate behind me, and he's just like standing in front of me. I was like,
you feel like that Sandlot kid?
Yeah. I'm like, hey, come here, buddy.
You want a tree?
He is just losing his mind, and I was like, can you guys come get this dog? Because this is going to be a problem.
Get me out of here.
And I'm like, oh my God, like I have to have this dog. So they were like, well, we need to do some paperwork. We'll give him a bath and do all stuff. You come back.
We'll give him a bath. They take him outside, spray him with a hose.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was. I mean, I'm just saying that because I remember leaving and coming back, and I'm pulling up a picture of him now. Like he's a pretty he shows his teeth a lot. He's like a.
And he's got that high gum showing teeth where he looks like almost like that wolf.
And you're like, you just don't want it. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, I want to get in with him.
Let's play.
But he's like, nobody's coming hopping the fence trying to mess with cars when this is meeting you at the other side of it. So it's perfect. It was great.
So
I love it.
Carjackings went down.
Yeah, so that became a non-issue.
Solved.
That became a non-issue. And then one day I'd leave one of my other dogs there. I'm like, it was like a long weekend. I had some employees at the shop, and I was like, I got to go to Charleston for this thing. I'm like, I'll take the other dog. They'll hang out behind the fence all night and whatever. And then one of my employees, he would go there and like feed the dogs in the morning and stuff. And he's like, hey man, what'd you do with the dogs? I'm like,
huh?
Zuri? That was Zuri. No, it was Moxie. They got out too before?
Yeah, Zuri dug under the fence and they went to the car wash.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was another instance. Well, it's scary. So like all the local cops started to know Hans.
Yep.
His name is Hans.
Oh, good name.
And they would kind of
Was that a Disney reference?
No, that was his name when I got him.
Oh.
I didn't name him. Well, a couple of them would like shoot me a text message at like 2 or 3 a.m. of a picture of him just like going ballistic at the fence because they'd like pull their patrol. They're patrol and they're like, "Hey man, your fucking dog," you know. I'm like, "Thanks for pissing."
Let's go
off.
mess with Hans.
Yeah, exactly. Every time.
We're bored.
So so everybody kind of knew him at that point because it's just kind of a small town and everyone knew him. So anyways, he gets out and Reed's like, he's like, "Hey man, what'd you do with the dogs?" I'm
They're
like,
there.
What do you mean what I do with the dogs? Like they're out back.
That is the worst call to get when you have a dog that's a butthead. Like,
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah. I was like,
We've gotten them before.
I'm getting sued. That's it. I'm
They're
done.
there.
Let me go ahead and
No,
just call
they're
my
not.
lawyer now. And I'm like, oh no. So I make a call to dispatch. I'm like, "Hey, this is Beeve at this shop." And I was like, "Hey, I've got some
We need to
aggressive."
post a bolo.
Yeah, I'm like, I got an aggressive dog that's loose, and I just so you guys need to be aware of this and like don't approach him. Like, all right, cool. So like 5 minutes later, I get a call from one of my cop buddies. He's like, "Hey man, got your dog. Kinda. Like we just called animal control. They're coming to try to wrangle him up because I'm like 2 hours away. I'm like I was at a wedding or something if I remember right. I was with Adam Love, I think. Anyways, so they get my one dog from the house. It's like super nice. She just like jumps in the car. They were on the street like miles from the shop barking at some old people. Like just like 60-year-old man. I'm like, they call the cops. The cops show up.
No bite though.
No bite.
That's good.
Thank God. Thank God. So that was one instance. So I had to go to this was crazy. And I didn't know how they got out. Like the fence was jacked up. So I don't know if it's one of the dogs that messed with it and they finagled their way out, or did somebody hit it with a car trying to break in?
Dogs are escape artists.
They're crazy. And especially Hans isn't so much. He doesn't like try to overcome a barrier like that.
He just accepts it.
He's just like, yeah, cool. I mean, it was a big space. He didn't care. He was cool. But it's my other dog. It was real. She passed away recently, but she was a pain in the ass.
Female dogs are usually the
nightmare.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah, she's good though. She just digs holes.
They're just a little bit more thick-headed. That's my experience.
Then thank God, so he didn't bite anybody. But I had to go to animal control. This was on a Sunday, and they're like, "Yeah, well, we got the dog." And I'm like, I get pulled over on the way back. I'm hauling ass. The cop, state trooper's like, "Hey, why are you going so fast?" I'm like, "So what happened was."
So what happened was.
And he's like,
Go ahead.
"Got it." He's like, just
slow it down.
Slow it down. Go get your dog.
Slow it down.
He was really cool about it. And so then animal control's like, "Well, we don't really open till tomorrow, so you have to come get him tomorrow." I'm like, okay. So Monday morning I go, and they treat me like a criminal.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
You're the
And I
bad
had
guy.
to pay like $700.
Really?
Yeah. It was crazy. I had to pay
What was was a fine for loose dog or something?
Yeah, it was like $400 per dog and all this stuff. It was outrageous. And that was like
that
first.
Would make $800.
Right. What did I say?
700.
Whatever.
I'm really not good at math.
Let me put that into a spreadsheet.
I failed math for Marines, and that's the easiest math that you can have. So, but I just wanted to sound like I was really smart on math.
Marines.
Yes, I eat crayons too for a living. So the rumors are true about Marines. They're not brilliant.
And the sign, it was like first offense this, second offense this, jail time, all this stuff. I'm like, I didn't just let my dogs out, y'all. So anyways, I pay the fine. I'm pissed about it. I pay the fine. And then they're like, well, who's going to get that dog? I'm not going to get that dog, you know? And I'm like, so then I'm just sit back. And I'm like, so who's going to get the dog? You know?
I tell you what, pay me $800, I'll get the dog.
I know, that's kind of what I started to negotiate. And I was like, I'll go get the dog. So they give me the leash. And I go get the dog, and they start walking me down where he's at. He's just at the gate, and then I walk up to the gate, and he's like, and he falls on his back, and he's like got his belly up, and they're like, "Oh hell no!"
Your dog's bipolar.
And then I walk, and they were like, "You can come out this door." I was like, "No, I'll go back up through the front." And then I just met him barking. Everybody on the way out. Of course, Moxie just like trots along, jumps in the back of the
I'm
car.
gonna make this worth $800.
Oh man, it was
dogs
crazy
get
experience.
expensive.
It was a crazy experience. But that dog, he's at home now. He's like retired from all the crazy stuff like that. But he's such a good dog. He's starting to lose his hearing now. He's 11-ish.
We get the I think someone should do a show on a dog training place, like a reality TV shows, because the email she gets.
All I can think in my head is like the Tiger King right now, just with dogs.
Yeah. So just no meth.
Right.
So on a
That damn Carol Baskin.
that Carol, we got my buddy Ed Soros. He has a canine Duke out in California, Doberman police canine, and he's like, "You got to watch this show." I'm like, he's like, "It's stupid, but you can't stop it." I was like,
Tiger King.
"Yeah." So I was like, "All right." So one night we were like, "Let's start this," and we're like,
oh my God. It's like the first episode, you're like, I can't watch any more of this trash. And then you're kind of like, all right, maybe I want to see a little more. And then you can't stop.
You know you're in for it when Netflix says, "Are you still watching this?" And you're like, "Yes."
Like 4 hours later. It's insane.
That's when you need to put Netflix away. When Netflix is asking you, "Are you still there?" I am.
That is
Keep
the craziest.
playing.
And it couldn't have come out at a better time, like during quarantine. Like no one had anything to do but watch it.
Watch something that is pointless.
Makes you, I mean,
But
that's
the email
entertaining.
she gets every other day, she'll say, "You'll have to hear this." And I'm like, "What?" And she'll start reading. I'm like, "You're kidding me." I'm like, "Is that real? Like, is that a real email from someone?" Like, "Let's call him." That is like the next answer. We got to get on the phone with these people. Like, let's call these people now. Yes, on speaker. It's some of the stuff that people come up with or deal with, or it's crazy. It is
So funny.
the dog training. Dog people are nuts.
Worse
They're
than cat people?
Worse than cat people.
No way.
Yes. I am telling you right now, they are. You ever seen what's it that movie? First in Show.
No,
First in Show.
I watch
think it's
like
called.
no movies. I'm so bad.
It's about like a dog, like AKC, like trotting dogs around like the ring.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was like a funny show that like wasn't real. Oh, it's a funny show. That's real. And because we went to one of the events, I was like, "Oh my God!" Like they had dogs like, brushing a dog out for hours, a little Fluffy with like puffing his hair up. And I'm like, what is going on with these dogs? But anyways, like people had contacts with issues with dogs and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'm not like most dog trainers. Like I'm a Marine. All right. So Marines tend to have a very shitty filter with telling you what a spade is when it's a spade. So she'll look at me and she'll walk out. She's like, "You are very harsh." I'm like harsh. Like, it's not the dog. I feel bad for the dog. I'm like, "It's all right, buddy." Like,
We're gonna fix your owner.
Like, I mean, but she laughs all the time because I judge. Yes, I judge. When people, so in the New Jersey location, there's a long driveway that you have to walk up to get to our office. So you get to watch them walk up. So the people that come with dogs, people that come with dogs and kids, I judge what this is going with how their kids are coming up the driveway. I know I'm in for a shit show when the child has never heard the word no. Like out of control to the umph level, like to the point where I now have a Nintendo flip Nintendo, not a Switch, but a DS. I have two of them, and
to give to the kids.
Yes,
to shut them up.
So I say, "Little Johnny, sit down and be quiet and play the DS." Like they're trying to talk this consultation. This child's running around, running by. smacking the dog, hitting the dog, not one comment from the parents. There's been times where I've had to correct a child.
Someone else's child, which is like an awkward feeling
Yeah.
in itself.
But like, I'm like, this is going to end bad with your child in a hospital, to the point where we've even said you're supposed to protect your child. Like, you're supposed to do that. Like, do you understand you treat your dog better than your child? You baby your dog more than your child. And that's not the problem. The problem is when the behavior becomes a threat to the child, to the point where if you know you have a dog that's reactive around his food bowl, where do you think you should feed that dog? Loose in a kitchen with children running around, with a child who can just learn to walk, thinks it's really cool to walk up to a
Crawls
bowl?
up to the dog bowl.
Oh, we've had that.
Oh yeah.
We've had this on consultation where we've said, this is what you need to do. And then we're getting a call back that they need 911 help now because the dog has bitten a child's face, that the dog has bitten a child. And you go, why? Like, why? This is your fault. This is not the dog's problem. This is your problem, because you knew you had the issue and you allowed for it to happen. You took your gun and you put it on the counter, and just with no safety. Like, does that sound safe? No. So why are you doing it with your dog? If you know we have the issue. So sometimes people need to hear the truth, because a lot of people beat around the bush when it comes to issues, and it comes, regardless, whatever it is, what profession you're in, sometimes you need to shoot people the truth, because there's nowadays there's too much fluff, and we don't want to hurt your feeling, and we don't want to be sued, and we can't say that. You got to be nice,
all
like
PC and all that.
Sometimes you have to be honest with clients and say,
unfiltered Marine.
Yes. Sometimes you have to say, like, you are the problem. You are going to kill your dog. It's not the dog that's bad. It's you that are allowing the behaviors that's going to get your dog euthanized, because you're not taking the necessary steps to fix them.
Do you see that there's certain types of breeds that have like issues, or male versus female, or is it just run the gamut? It just depends on, like, if they had a rescue dog that had a really poor experience before.
The most aggressive dog that we've had come through our facility was what was that little dog that came through? What was it?
Oh man, I had
a little Chihuahua.
Mean little dogs.
Our kennel staff would have to put on these little gloves to get the little dog out of the kennel. I mean, granted, it's a Chihuahua, right? But are you afraid of a rat biting you? The answer is yes. No one wants to get bit by a rat.
It's the same thing.
It's the same size teeth. Okay.
Sorry, I had two Chihuahuas. It's
going to puncture your skin the same way.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt the same way. It's the same, but you don't look at it as like a German Shepherd. So I don't see, the biggest thing that I see is waves of bad breeding based on what's cool in society. So you look at, 101 Dalmatians forever ago. You saw a lot of bad breeding after that movie came out. Right. Now we're starting to get into the tactical wave of dogs. So you're starting to see a lot of bad breeding of shepherds and mals, backyard breedings that just produce very bad, mentally unstable dogs, to the point where this was bound to happen. Like the breeding shouldn't have been bred. The dog
saw that with fighting dogs, and not to stereotype certain breeds, and that's why I was like, I didn't want to go down the road of like trying to point fingers at there's good breeds and bad breeds. Although there's some that are great breeds. Like, I think after this dog, I'm going to take a break from dogs for a while, because it's a lot of responsibility, and we want to be able to just pick up and travel and do things without having that burden. But
you don't want to travel with 5 dogs like I'm doing right now.
But like I would love to have like a golden retriever or some just fun, soft, low energy.
There is a lot of dogs out there that are there. You have a better chance of doing no training and it being good.
Right. I guess
there's other dogs that you definitely, if you don't have time for a dog, this is a bad dog to get.
And I think
so. That's why we do a lot of screening when we sell dogs. When we talk about puppies, like when we sell like a Mal puppy, a Belgian Mal puppy or a German Shepherd puppy, we do a lot of background. Like we really want to get into why you want the dog. How much do you understand what time? And don't look at it like, are you a cop and can you handle this dog? Are you alpha? No.
Do you have the
has
space
nothing to
for
do
it?
with
Are you
it.
going to is it going to get the exercise required? Because those dogs need to like move and run and
it's more so honestly, are you willing to put the time in education for yourself to teach the dog time wise? Like,
Right.
Are you willing to take the time to educate yourself?
and it kind of goes back to the way people are wired, right? Certain breeds there's working dogs and it's like they need to be doing something.
Yep.
They need to be stimulated. Their mind needs to be stimulated for them to stay sane. Kind of like how we were talking about before, being wired. Like I am a working person.
Yep.
I want to work. There's that kind of stuff versus.
And some people could sit in front, like sit and do nothing all day and be completely content doing it. Like she's the same. I would go crazy doing nothing. Like I need to do something. I need, whether it's something in the house, I need to be, I can't just veg out and do nothing. So there are breeds that are better for certain types of people. Like our Frenchie, Charlie, he's a beast. He thinks he's 200 pounds. He thinks he's a killer. He's got a bulletproof vest that he wears around. Like he's the man. But at the same time, they call them the trucker dogs. They can legit sit in a car and sleep and hang out with you all day and be completely content doing it. Like he would hang out on your lap and do nothing all day. But at the same time, he can run around and be a fun little dog too.
Right.
So you definitely need to do the research on what dog is good for your lifestyle. Lifestyle is everything when you go to pick these dogs. And a lot of people, I'm not an advocate for rescuing dogs, but at the same time, you have to be an advocate for your family, especially if you have children. Going and just rescuing a dog because you're trying to be a good person is not always the right good decision for your family, because you don't know the back history of this dog. You don't know are they good with kids? And how are you going to figure that out? Trial by fire. So if you're going to be doing rescuing of dogs into bringing them into the family, I think it's super important to get a skilled trainer in to evaluate a dog that you're going to adopt. And a lot of trainers they will 100% say, yeah, bring the dog to us and we'll evaluate the dog. We do it all the time for people. Bring us a dog, we'll evaluate the dogs. And people that are these adoption places, they look at that like, good. Like, thank you for taking the time to make sure this is a long-term thing, not just a spur of the moment. And I don't know if you've seen recently, adoptions are through the roof right now with this pandemic.
Really?
Kennels are empty.
Really?
Rescues are empty right now.
Really?
Because everyone's taking on project dogs.
Interesting.
But bad news for dogs, because everyone's staying at home right now, right? So what does this dog know?
Everyone's around.
24/7. Tension 24/7. Oh, I don't need to put this dog in a kennel. He's good. We only kennel him at night. What happens when you go back to normal life?
Mm-hmm. Everyone's at work.
And that dog is now
separation anxiety.
going into a kennel and it never did a kennel during the day. We're going to have a lot of dogs going back into kennels. I guarantee it's going to spike, because they're going to say, I can't handle this dog. It's chewing my house apart. Well, no, you created that. You set the dog up for a lifestyle that you were going to not be able to give long term. So that's going to be a huge part of our online training program, is going to address a lot of those issues that a lot of people are going to see in the near future, where these dogs are going to go through an oh crap moment when everyone leaves the home and they're home for 8 hours with no one, because everyone's been home.
Yeah. I would have never even thought about that. It's crazy. Cool.
But yeah, so we're heading down to Boca, and we're so excited to get things rolling down there, get the family down there, get a lot more online training stuff, get baby Nash on a surfboard sometime in the near future.
Or on that boat you're going to buy.
The boat. I know we were talking about the boat all night, bro.
I took him out last night, totally ruined him.
The kids are like, can we get
That's all right.
that
I was
boat?
looking at campers after that. I'm like, cool
This
camper
camper's
would be
pretty
sweet.
cool. You can borrow mine because It'll be sitting like a storage thing, so you can use it anytime you want. Just come pick it up. You just have to have a fifth wheel for it, so just
Yeah.
you can come scoop it anytime you want.
I'll need the truck too then.
Perfect. As long as I get to drive the baby tactical gear truck around,
Yeah,
that thing's dope.
Maybe I'll drop off my NSX. You can drive that while I drive your
Is that little
sports car.
Yeah, that thing's cool. I don't know. I'm not a car guy, as you can
Yeah.
see. Is that thing with four wheels out there that I see you driving? I'm not a car guy. So yeah, you can use it anytime you want.
Appreciate that. Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. We'll get everyone out of here. And I'm sure the baby's getting Nancy and the dog. But guys, thanks for listening. We're super happy to be back on the podcast train. Hopefully we continue to bring some more episodes your way. Hopefully every week again. I would love to get back on that. So thanks for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave ratings, reviews, all that stuff. Brady, let them know one more time where they can find you.
It is at K9 Gunner Tactical, letter K, the number 9, Gunner, Gunner Tactical. And we have a YouTube page that we put training stuff out on, Instagram and YouTube.
Cool.
And thank you for having
Of course.
us.
Of
It's
course.
been an
I'm
awesome
really glad
experience.
it worked out. I'm really glad it worked out. Awesome. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you guys in the next episode.